and welcome to this first DDDUS Meetup online. And it's taken a bit to get here, but we are excited to have Alexander Miertsch on for the first episode of our meetup. If you are online right now and on chat, go ahead and introduce yourself there. And this is really a meetup, not a podcast. It's for us to all kind of interact with each other, but because we can't get everybody on screen, we were just going to go ahead and meet through the chat. And here we go. Domain-driven design United States has gone to a new look and feel on the website since we launched a few months ago. Got additional feedback as well, and there's a lot here. The one thing I wanted to point out this time around was our local meetups. We do have several, and there's links to every one of them inside of this website. And if a new meetup shows up and you learn about it, please let me know, and we'll add them to the map and get them listed here. A couple of these are actually one, I think Southern California just got done at Pacific time 10 to noon, so they just ended their meetup session on large architecture with I believe it was Randy, and you guys can take a look at the other offerings here. Portland is the one that I run. It is going to take a little bit of time. We've met in coffee shops, but we're looking for a permanent place, possibly at a university, maybe at a corporation somewhere, but we're trying to get that off the ground. Then the next thing I want to talk about is conferences. In North America, we have Explore DDD. Let me cut over to their site real quick. So as you can tell, let's go straight to the front page. They are hosting, Paul Rayner and team are hosting a conference in the United States. They have for years. There was a break during the COVID era, but they are going to go with quite a number of speakers, and we'll get to that in a second. But March 14th through the 15th is the main conference, and a few days before that are pre-conference workshops. Highly encourage you to take a look at exploreddd.com for any more information on that. The speakers are already selected, so I wanted to kind of give an idea of who's going to be speaking there. Alberto Brandolini will be there. We've got Eric Schaefer will be there. Eric Evans will be there. Indu will be there. I'll be there. Nick Toon will be there. I think he's actually online with us today on the chat. Paul, of course, who's running the show there, will be there. Suzanne Kaiser, who's just is now working on a book on adaptive systems, and I'm looking forward to that. Von Vern will be there. He's got a workshop before as well. So quite a number of people. Randy Shoup was the one at your meetup at Southern California that I think just ended a few minutes ago. So yeah, lots to do, lots to listen to, lots to think about at Explore DDD. All right. Some of you may be new to domain-driven design, and so I don't want to go forward without just a quick, small, short, few-second explanation on what domain-driven design is, and then talk a little bit about Eventstorming, and then we'll get to Alexander, who is waiting in the wings and ready to go. So domain-driven design in a nutshell is a way of learning the behaviors of a system, learning the behaviors of a business or organization or agency, and the desired software behaviors specifically in the way they want them done, and mapping them according to the way they would like. And a lot of developers, when they first learn DDD, they're a little thrown because they usually are taught to think data first. This gives you an opportunity to think about behavior and data in a way that is adaptive for the future. So when things change in the business or in an organization or a government agency, you want to be able to actually move forward with those changes. And the alignment, it doesn't have to be necessarily perfect aligned. There's no such thing as a perfect model. But if your alignment is really, really good and really close to what the domain needs, then when the domain changes in that area, you should be able to adapt. And we break this down initially by language, and then we break those language sections into modules called aggregates. So it looks like we do have a new person that has on chat that says never heard about domain-driven design. So welcome. Your handle is M1 itch, I think. So welcome, M1. All right, we're going to keep moving forward. Eventstorming is, milk. Okay, so eventstorming is a way to model the domain. So we just talked about the sort of the philosophy of domain-driven design. Well, there's a tactical way to go about looking at your boundaries and how you might make services according to the behavior of the domain. And Eventstorming has 3 different layers. It's got a big picture where you just look at domain events and the order of the behavior and the way it should happen. And then you look at process modeling on top of that at a next layer. And then you look at software models that support it. And so you build off of each of those to create that software model. And today we're going to be taking a look at a tool called Proofboard that allows you to do that work. And then this is a first for me. I've never seen Proofboard, so I'm just like you. I want to see how Alexander takes Eventstorming to the next level, which gives you a prototype of code. And so I'm really looking forward to that. So we're about ready to jump into that. Let me bring Alexander in. Welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you for taking time to do this. I know you've been preparing quite a bit. I wanted to just kind of get a background on how did you get it started with domain-driven design and Eventstorming, and kind of give us your background real quick.
Oh, real quick. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a little bit a longer story. So let's start in 2009 because I'm a self-taught developer. So I worked on a hobby project together with my wife at night and at the weekends. We had a community platform called Big Home. It was about interior design. And I was developing the site and also the backend for the system, some kind of content management system and so on. And we used Google Ads to make a little bit of money with it, but only really a little bit. And we wanted to increase that money to by integrating products from affiliate networks. So I started to integrate SOAP APIs from different affiliate networks, but somehow the whole thing got out of control. And I did a few mistakes, and the end of the story was that we got a penalty from Google because fetch from the affiliate networks. And that was my starting point of going deeper into software design and quality, because that was really painful for us back in the days. And that was my starting point. So I started to study the work of really professional developers. I looked at different frameworks and so on, and try to find out how they work with abstractions, and how they write classes, design classes, put them together so that the whole code base gets easier to handle. And that was my starting point, I would say. And yeah, 4 years later, I had a career as a software developer and to jump directly into enterprise software development. That's a different story, but I think it's too long to explain those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was working for 2 years already for a large energy provider, and then I was looking for a new project. And there was this well-known car rental company, and they were looking for a domain-driven design expert. And I thought, never heard about it, but how hard can it be? It sounds interesting. So I bought a copy of Eric Evans' book, and I started to read it and thought, okay, yeah, it's what I'm doing right now, but it explains it a little bit better or gives me some more background. And what fascinated me was especially the part about the language. Yeah, that it is super important to work together with domain experts, and that's not always that easy to find a common ground for the software. And domain-driven design and the focus on the ubiquitous language and so on. This was like magic for me first, but then it all made sense. Yeah, and I loved it from day one. So that's how I got into domain-driven design, and I got the job for this car rental company, and I worked 2 years there to migrate one little part of a really big ball of mud. So they were using COBOL, and we had to migrate COBOL to PHP and clean up the big ball of mud. And our job was to run a pilot of domain-driven design, and if it can help to modularize the monolith, the big ball of mud, and make this migration happen. So I could put domain-driven design directly into practice and talk about it with my colleagues and with architects and so on. So this was really great. So I think a year later, I was already deep into domain-driven design, and I also discovered event sourcing, and that's the story of my programmer life. So
Okay.
I'm a huge event sourcing fan.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you got into Eventstorming, how did that start?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a little bit later. So I discovered event sourcing in 2013, so 10 years ago, I would say. And in the first project, I was not able to use it. So this was the car rental company, and they said, "Oh no, event sourcing is too fancy. Sorry, but no, we are not going to do that." But I loved it so much that I wanted to use it in other projects. And 2015, I got the chance to start a project with event sourcing. And I was already developing a open source library for event sourcing called Prooph components. And we used that in the project and so on. And it worked great. And it was also a complex system. And we started to use Eventstorming to talk with a business about the system and to design it. And it worked really, really great. So because for me, it was a match made in heaven. Yeah, Eventstorming and event sourcing just work perfectly together. So that's how I got into Eventstorming. So
Okay.
in the real project, trying it out.
To be clear for those who are not aware, event sourcing is a process where you store events in the sequential order that they happen into a database so that you can replay them and go back in time and see the state of the organism of the data structure that you're looking at the time that those events happen. Each event happens. That's what event sourcing is. And Eventstorming is a process modeling tool that allows you to take a map series of events in the order you would like them to happen, and the unhappy events as well, and put commands and so forth. And so we'll get into more of that, I think, in the demo. All right, so maybe we just go ahead and move forward with the demo. How about that?
Okay, yeah. let's do that. So I need to share my screen.
Yep.
So is it online?
It
Do you
is.
see the
Yep,
screen?
I see it.
Okay, great.
Work is
So
like a hill.
yeah, exactly. So before we really go into the demo, I would like to talk about a little bit about the theory. So where we are coming from, and especially why we started to design proof board and use it in our projects. So this chart here, it's called a hill chart. It's taken from Shape Up, which is a work organization method like Scrum that was developed by Basecamp. And there's an online book available written by Ryan Singer that's really, really great. And I love this hill chart thinking. So work is like a hill. It means that when you start with a non-trivial task, so I'm not talking about a little refactoring in the software, changing the color of a button or something. No, I'm talking about a more complex topic. When you start with that topic, you don't know much about it. So you have to climb the hill to gain the knowledge of what is the topic about. In case of developing a software for the business, you have to understand how the business works. Otherwise, you cannot write high quality software for the business that supports it. So that is this part about climbing the hill. When you are at the top, then you see the other side, you see the finish line, and you can get the stuff done. But the problem is how to climb the hill. And Eric Evans has designed this model exploration whirlpool within the domain-driven design thinking world. And that model exploration whirlpool helps you to gain the knowledge to climb the hill. Yeah. And what I observe in a lot of teams, no matter if they do agile or not, is that they skip this part somehow, or that not all developers are climbing the hill, but most developers are starting here, and this work is done by someone else. And then or the result of this looks more like something like that. Yeah, when you start at the top of the hill and you have no knowledge about how the hill can be climbed, then you have the problem that you cannot directly go to the finish line. You have to work on iterations and ask for a lot of stuff because the requirements are not clear to you. Yeah, and you fill the gap of missing information with your own assumptions, but your assumptions cannot be right because you don't know the domain. You are not a domain expert. You are a developer who's writing software, but you don't run the business. Yeah. So, so the message here is don't start at the top of the hill. Start really at the beginning. Start with gaining the knowledge. And the model exploration whirlpool is about how to do that. And that is what I want to. Well, that is what I want to show you next. So the model exploration whirlpool looks like this. And
yeah, and this has been out for, I would say, 5 or 7 years, something like that. It's been out there for a few years, so there's a number of people using this pretty successfully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I really I really like this concept because it is based on feedback loops. And the idea is to make those feedback loops as short as possible. So we have different activities in this whirlpool. So it starts with proposing a model, which is done with, for example, Eventstorming. And then you can go through different scenarios to challenge the model, and you can do prototyping to also challenge the model in the first version of the software to see if it really works effectively in the software. But the idea is to not write high quality code because it takes too long at this stage. It's about writing code really fast just to get a feeling, yeah. And you do this in small iterations and to get a better model. So yeah, there is this this saying that all models are wrong, but some models are useful.
Right.
And that's right. Yeah. So you have to go deeper and deeper and play with different variations of the model to find out what is the most fitting one, what supports the business best and is also, for example, scalable and maintainable over a long period of time. So, and we developed Proofboard, so we are on Proofboard here because we wanted to have a tool that we can use remote to work on this whirlpool in a single place. So when we started with Eventstorming, the problem was that at that time everybody said, okay, you cannot do Eventstorming remote. Yeah, Alberto Brandolini said the best remote tool for Eventstorming is a flight ticket. But we were working remote most of the time, and we loved Eventstorming. So we said, no, we need to find a way to do it remote. Yeah. So long before Corona hit the world and everybody tried to do Eventstorming also remote. But yeah, we started to work with Miro, or back in the day it was still called real-time board, if you remember that. And the results were good. Yeah, we could do Eventstorming on Miro. But we also realized that some parts are missing. So because we used event sourcing as an implementation, we wanted to go a little bit deeper with the design. Yeah, we wanted to model some technical aspects as well, and that became really tricky with Miro. So that was the reason why we started with Proofboard. We said, well, okay, we are pretty good developers, so how hard can it be? let's develop our own tool. I can say it is really hard, especially the real-time collaboration front-end part is not that easy, but here we are. So, and meanwhile, Proofboard got a lot of features that you won't find in any other tool, and those features I want to show you today. So, what do we have on Proofboard? So the first thing is, of course, we can do Eventstorming and event modeling to support the model feedback loop. Then we can do the prototyping part with a component called Cody Play. So this is Cody is a coding bot, or we call him Code Monkey. That's why an ape is the icon. And the original idea was that Cody just takes information from Proofboard and translates it into code. Yeah, so code generation. But Cody Play is a little bit more. It's a real prototyping app that does not require any servers, and it does not require written code. You can just run it in the browser, and we will see it in a minute. Okay. So the prototyping part can be done with Cody Play. And the scenario part of the whirlpool can soon be done on Proofboard as well, and together with Cody. We have a dedicated team working on this. It's also a team of a partner from us, BitExpert. So we joined force to work together on Proofboard, and the BitExpert team is working on scenario mapping. So the idea here is that you can define scenarios on Proofboard using the event model, and then let Cody translate translate those scenarios into tests in the software. Yeah, and today I would like to show a first prototype of this feature because it is still work in progress and we have a proof of concept at the moment, but I wanted to show it today because it's an important part of the model exploration whirlpool. Yeah. Okay, so far so good. That's the theory. Now let's look at the demo itself. So I've prepared a little demo. The problem always is of a demo that yeah, you cannot really simulate a complex system. Yeah, that would be just too much. But a sort of a small system that is maybe still complicated enough to show the power of Cody play. So here's a little big picture Eventstorming of our application. It's a time tracking application for a software agency. And the story that is sketched here with Eventstorming is or goes like this. We have 3 different roles: an HR role, a project management role, and a developer role. The HR role is responsible for hiring employees. The project manager role is responsible for acquiring clients and then setting up projects for that clients, and assigning developers to each project. And then the project managers and the developers track time when they work on a project. So that's the business logic of this time tracking application. And it will provide 2 kinds of reports. One time report of the project. So the time calculated or shown that was tracked by each person. And then also an employee time report for HR to check the work time. So that's the idea of the demo application. And as John already said, you have 3 layers of Eventstorming. You have this big picture where you only sketch the most important information. You sketch the flow by using domain events written in past tense. And you mix it with some other interesting information like, yeah, what do you want to show in the system, which roles are involved, and so on. So this is a very short, simplified introduction of Eventstorming.
And I think if you're not aware of the color codes, it's pretty simple to pick up. There are many people that teach Eventstorming at workshops and so forth, and you can read about it in Alberto's book. And but it's a non-technical way to label domain events, commands, read views, policies, personas, and hotspots, questions, and that kind of thing. So but there's not that many of those, and if you learn the automated and manual looping part of it, it's powerful to be able to document that very quickly in front of a domain expert who is feeding you how the system should work in their mind, and getting that down quickly without any need for them to have any techno fear about code or anything. It's pretty powerful. So and again, big picture, process model, software model, they happen in iterations in that loop to weed out exactly what you're trying to build. So we've got a big picture here. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, exactly. From here we go to the process level, and I also wanted to introduce event modeling, which is similar to Eventstorming, I would say. It adds a little bit a different structure because it works with swim lanes, which are not necessarily needed for Eventstorming. But the swim lanes are good, especially on a tool like Proofboard. They are working not so good when you do Eventstorming or event modeling in the office on site on a wall. but yeah, on a tool like Proofboard, event modeling is super nice. And we realized that especially business people and project managers love the format. They love the swim lanes and the flow that you sketch with event modeling. So instead of process level event storming, I usually use event modeling for this process level. So yeah, and here we see our application with some more details. So it's organized that we have a timeline in the middle. It's this arrow here. So we look at the process from start to end. And above the timeline, we have a swim lane for each role. And in the swim lanes, we see the UI screens that are used by the role to interact with the system. For example, with our backend system. Yeah. And we also can sketch process automation here. For example, in the first action, when the HR person hires an employee, we also want to create a user account in our system so that the employee can log in and use the system. And this is sketched here with a gear icon so that it happens automatically. We also have a hotspot here. Hotspots are really nice in Eventstorming to highlight open questions or some flaws in the flow that need to be checked and so on. And I've put a hotspot here because it would be nice to have this flow react on the employee hired event, but our authentication server is not able to do that at the moment. So we have to call the authentication server when the command is going into the system, which is not really event driven. So I wanted to highlight this for those of you who who are wondering why it's not event driven. In that case, it's because the authentication server is not able to do that. Yeah, and below the timeline, we have a swim lane for each context of the system, for each, let's say, backend context in that case here. And because we have a small application, we don't use microservices or separated services for each context, but we only use modules within one monolithic system. So we have 3 modules here: the HR module, the project management module, and the timesheets module. And then you design the flow from the UI through the API layer that gives you commands to tell the system what to do. And the green stickies are information coming out of the system to be shown in the UI again. And the events in between commands and information are assigned or put into the swim lanes so that you know in which module those events will happen. Yeah, and that's already a super nice way to design the system. And most people at the moment stop here. So they take some model like this and go into their IDE and then start to develop this. But we realized at some point, why should we stop here? If you put a lot of effort into designing this stuff, you are very close to also generate the code for it, because this flow that you sketch here is really accurate. More or less the only thing is missing is some more technical details about, let's say, what properties does the project have. Yeah, here are some properties sketched. So the project manager is referenced, the client is referenced, and the list of developers. And this kind of very detailed information is not included in such a process level event modeling or event storming diagram. And we said, okay, let's just go one step deeper, because it's also nice to collaborate in a team on the software details. And collaboration works best on or within a tool like proofboard. Yeah, so you can work together as a team on this unlimited modeling space and play around with the model and sketch the properties and so on. So yeah, and then we have the third layer. We call it event map. It's design level event storming, so or software level event storming. As I said, it's the most detailed view that you can create with event storming and event modeling. And we came up with a format that works best over a long period of time. So let me quickly explain why. So what we do is when we have something like this, a timeline of UI command event information parts that are put together by different UI screens or through events. Then you can slice such a process into process steps. Yeah. So here's a process step. Here's a process step. Here's a process step. Here's a process step. So you go from one command to event to information to the next step in the UI or process automation, back to a command, event, information, and so on. Yeah, you jump through the process by following the flow. And to design this as a software design, you can take the slices and put them into feature boxes. For example, one feature is hire employee. And over time, trying out different formats, we realized that it is good to have everything for one feature, for one slice of the process in one feature box. So we always design features and we don't connect them with each other. Yeah, we don't connect them like in the process model. We keep all information that are needed for one feature within one feature box. And the reason for this is that when you use event storming, event modeling on a daily basis, so you develop the system over time, then you will change the map a lot. Yeah, and you always want to keep the order of the process steps from left to right, so that your design always tells the story from start to end. But when you, let's say, want to add something here in between, you have to move the stuff, and it's much easier when you just can move a feature box that has no connection to all the other feature boxes, and you can reorganize your model, your design in that way, and you don't have to mess around with arrows and stuff like that. So the other more technical aspect of this design is that also in the software you have these slices. They are like bricks that you can stack on each other. Yeah. So when your design looks like this, then your system, your resulting system, is really loosely coupled, and maintenance cost is always the same because you are only adding features, removing features, but they are not that much connected in the code. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Then that's nice, but you also want to see it in action as soon as possible. So a switch to the prototyping iteration or feedback loop of the model exploration whirlpool. And we are currently developing, so it's in beta phase at the moment, we are currently developing a prototyping tool called Cody Play that I already introduced, and you can directly start it from Proofboard. And it just opens another tab in the browser, and starts an application in the browser without any connection to any server. And I am just going to do that now. You have the possibility to save snapshots of the application that you can reopen later. And those snapshots include the current configuration and the data that you have entered. So I could jump, or I will jump to one of these snapshots soon, but let's start the application in an empty mode. So here we are, that's Cody Play. And Cody Play is really designed to be a prototyping application. Yeah. For example, you don't work with real users, you define personas here. I could add personas now, gives them roles to check or to play around with permission systems and so on. And then I can switch the personas here on the dashboard of Cody Play. I can, if I want, also change a little bit the look and feel. For example, rename it to time tracker. I could also change the design a little bit if I want, but that's it. Oh, wait, no, it's already loaded from my local storage. That's not what I want. Okay, so the thing is, as I said, that this all happens in the browser, but we also have a no-code, a Node.js package, a Node.js library called Cody Engine that you can also pull from GitHub, run on your local machine, and have the same application running on your local machine. That would give you the possibility to customize logic. Yeah, here in the prototyping app, you cannot override logic, you cannot influence it, you can only control it from proofboard. If you check out Cody Engine on your local machine and run it from there, then you can also customize it in whatever way you want, and you can deploy it. So you can turn it into a real application if you want. Yeah, but this one here, the prototyping part that runs in the browser, and you don't need any knowledge about Node.js, TypeScript, or whatever. You can just use it. So okay, I've prepared our demo up to the point that we can assign developers to a project. And for this, I have a snapshot prepared and saved, and I can jump to the snapshot now. So now we have different personas already set up. We have Jane, which is our HR person. We have Max as the project manager, and we have 2 developers, Alice and Bob. If I sign in as Max, I get access to the functionality of setting up projects and clients. And for example, I have one project here, and the 2 developers are assigned to the project. What I want to show you now is how to add the next feature. So if you look at our process model, we are here at the moment. We see the project, we see the client and the assigned developers. And now we want to have a UI to track time, a timesheet UI that is accessible by the project manager, by the project manager and the developers. And what will happen is that from this UI, a command is sent to the backend system, track project time. We will have an event that is recorded in the database, project time tracked. And from that, we can derive a timesheet, which is then also used for the reports. One report filtered by project and one report filtered by employee who has tracked the time. And yeah, when we design a feature, we always start with an event that we already know from the big picture or the process level Eventstorming. And then we go on to the event map and just paste it here. Yeah, then we have integrated Cody also to help you with the event map design. So you can see the little Cody icons here that appear around the event.
Oh.
And we also have a sidebar for the more technical stuff. We call it the metadata sidebar. And in the sidebar, we also have a Cody tab. So Cody is everywhere on Proofboard and tries to help you with the design. So when we have an event without any connections, then Cody asks us, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to design a domain action? So define business logic with a flow of command aggregate event information, or do you want to design some process automation as a reaction to the event? So in our case, we want to design a domain action. And if I click here, then Cody suggests me an aggregate, which is responsible for handling the command coming in from the UI. Yeah, and as you can see, Cody tries to suggest the naming. We started with the project time tracked event. Cody looked at the event name, extracted the nouns to use them for the aggregate name, and turned the verb into imperative. I think it's called in English. So translated it from past tense to imperative, and so we have the command name.
And those can be overridden if they're not the intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those can be overridden. Yeah, I can just click here and rename it to something else. The suggestions not always work as expected, I would say. There's just a little library used that tags the words and try to identify what are the nouns, what are the verbs, and then rephrases the stuff. But it's not always what you want to have. It's more a suggestion, I would say. But yeah, the nice thing is that if you don't know what should happen next or before, you can just click on the Cody icon like here, and then you get the sticky connected to the right format. So you can also see the legend here. So orange is the domain event, and green is the information sticky, and so on. And Cody will just help you with that.
Did it have an option for a policy?
Yes. Let me just copy the event. So the policy is this process automation part. So if I click here, then I get a policy.
Off to the right. Okay.
Off to the right. Yeah. Or the thing is, if I just have the event here, and I click to the right, then I get a policy.
Okay.
So it depends on which icon you click, and Cody helps you with getting the format right. Yeah. Okay. So the goal here is a little bit to have one event map design that is used by every team. Yeah. So that as an architect or as a CTO, or if you're a member of another team and you want to check the work of the others because you need information from them or whatever, then you can just switch to their team board and look at their event map, and you can read it like your own. Yeah. So we really try to streamline the design here a little bit. But only the event map. Yeah, you are free to do the other levels as you want. Yeah, be creative with big picture eventstorming. Be creative with process level eventstorming or event modeling. We don't care. What we care about is at the end the event map. So if you want to use Cody or the prototyping app, then at the end you need this event map format to make it work.
Okay.
And yeah, this is based on, let's say, already 4 years of experimentation with different teams and different projects and so on. So we hope it's okay. If someone likes the idea itself but not the format, then if you become a paying customer, we can also talk about options to organize it in a different way and add an option in the board settings to switch the format. But at the moment, this is the way we think it's best working. So,
well, I do like that you've kind of stuck with the ubiquitous language of Eventstorming and stayed with, you know, kind of what Alberto was doing, so that, because there's a lot of people already trained in that format.
Yeah, and I mean, the first idea of Proofboard was also to have a tool dedicated to Eventstorming, because on a general purpose diagramming tool like Miro, you can do a lot of stuff. Yeah, and of course it's great, but people new to Eventstorming feel more home on Proofboard because you only have the stickies and they already have the right color. Yeah,
and you can only go a certain direction in either way.
Exactly.
And
so that's an advantage, and of course a disadvantage at the same time, because we also have project managers who do a little bit of design and so on, and they also want to get creative. We have some tricks, some hidden tricks to also do some more creative work. I mean, like this hill chart that I've showed here. This is all also done on Proofboard. So it's possible to do some more creative work, but Proofboard is not really designed for this. So and we will never support all the possibilities on Miro or Mural or whatever they are called. So our focus is Eventstorming, definitely. Okay, and so the thing is, of course, in the demo, I'm doing this alone, but the goal on Proofboard is also to bring the team together and let them design the software together. Not only the developers, but also other team members like UX designers or project managers, or also the domain experts. So, and on this software level, as I said, you want to talk about all the little details. Also, what properties do we want to have on project time, for example? And our suggestion is, in the collaboration session, to use a green sticky for each property. Yeah, so that you can brainstorm together. Everybody can write one sticky, and the goal here is that everybody is active. Because when only one person is writing or is sitting in the driver's seat, then it happens too fast that the other people are just listening and are not really focused, and then you are losing their creativity, their input. So we really try to support collaborative design, and for our project time, such a brainstorming session could end up like this. So I've prepared it a little bit. So when we track time for a project, of course, we need a reference to the project. We need to know who has tracked the time, who the employee. Yeah. Then we also need to know about the day of the work, the start time and the end time. So now it's good to have it here next to the project time. But if you do it for every entity or data model that you have, then the event map gets messy, because you have a lot of green stickies and too much information. So now Cody can help you again. And if you drag and drop the green stickies on other green stickies, then the information is merged into the schema of that sticky. So we now merged the project sticky into the schema of our project time. Yeah, and I can do it with the employee. I can do it with a day and so on. So now I can clean up the event map and prepare the more technical information that I used to generate the code. And this also works with more complex structures. Let's say we have an address, and the address should have a street and a city. And now I can also merge street and city into the address to get the schema of the two properties. And now when I merge address into project time, which doesn't make sense, but here you see that then I have the more complex schema merged into my main data model. So, but of course, I'm going to delete the address again. It also works with references and so on, but I think that that gets too heavy here for the demo. So there is a lot to explore on Proofport. We really try to make it as developer and user friendly as possible, but also have a lot of advanced options. But yeah, that's the main idea about this merging. So then I've prepared also the timesheet. So the project time is a single entry in our timesheet, yeah, and we want to have a list of tracked project time aggregated in the timesheet, and that timesheet is a little bit prepared so that I don't have to type everything here in the demo. And here we also have some more technical instructions to tell Cody and Cody Play how to filter the timesheet. And it is pre-filled, or I've pre-filled it before the meeting, so that the timesheet is filtered by the currently logged in user based on the employee property that we have in the project time, so that our timesheet is already filtered by the person who has tracked the time. Yeah, next thing is the UI. And we can also say or define what information we want to see in the UI. We want to see the timesheet. And then we can wrap everything in a feature box. That's all done automatically. And we can say, okay, this feature is planned. That's more a visual feature to differentiate between ready features, deployed features, and planned features, and so on. So, and then we can now hand over this feature to Cody, and Cody will put it into our Cody Play time tracker demo. So I just hit the button here, and then I hope that everything is working. While screen sharing, it takes a little bit longer to synchronize the stuff and generate it in Cody Play, but performance looks fine. Here. And now we have the project times here.
Wow. That's pretty cool, actually.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we don't see that much at the moment because we have the schema in the information. That's fine, but not in the event. And I have a button here to copy the schema from the information into the event. And I can also copy the schema from the information into the command. Then also let me quickly change the design a little bit. I can, for example, define the sidebar icon here and rename it to, and the renaming is not so important. Then I run the stuff again. Takes a moment. Okay. So now we should, now we also have the schema in our form. So from the schema of the command, a form is generated, and we can now enter the information. But of course, we have some stuff here that we don't need, so we can clean it up a little bit. First of all, the project time ID, that's an internal ID that's not relevant to the user. So we can hide that, or we will hide that. The employee should be the currently logged in user. So we can also hide that. And the project should be a drop-down with the projects that are assigned to the currently logged in user. So let's quickly work on that. For this, we have some possibilities in the metadata sidebar. For example, we have a UI schema here, and we can first copy something from the information to hide the project time ID. And then we also, wait, that's not needed. Then we delete the employee from the schema of the command. And we do something else instead. We go into the aggregate, yeah. And as I said, the aggregate is responsible for handling the command. And on the aggregate, you can define business rules. So what should happen in the backend system when the command hits the backend? Yeah. And for now, the default rule is just that the aggregate takes the information from the command and maps it to the event, project time tracked, and that's it. There's no other rule. Yeah, it's just forwarding the information from command to event. What I can do now is I can say, okay, I want to have all the information from the command, but since I've deleted the employee information in the command, I can now set the employee information here, and I can get it from the logged in user, which is available in meta user ID. So yeah, in the aggregate that is handling the command in the backend system, I'm now going to take the information from the command and merge in the user ID of the current user as an employee who has tracked the time. And last but not least, as I said, we want to have the assigned projects to our current user as a drop-down in the command. So I've also prepared the assigned projects here, which is an information, a list of projects, yeah, which is defined as a schema here. So we have an items schema. This is based on JSON schema, if you know JSON schema. So we say, Cody, okay, we have a list of items of type project. And along with that, we also say, okay, when you query the assigned projects, please filter by list of developers. So take the current user ID and check if the current user ID is in the developers list of that project, or it's an OR filter, or if the currently logged in user is a project manager. Yeah. So, and now we can just on the command say, okay, please use that list for our project, property that we have here in the timesheet. And we can do this with a UI widget, which is a data select, and then just provide some options. The data should be the assigned projects, and from this data we want to use the name of the project as a text in the dropdown, and as a value that gets stored in our project property, we want to use the project ID. Okay. So then let's hand over this information to Cody Play. First, the assigned projects, and then our command, or change command, and also our new business rules logic. All right. Yeah, and we already have the live update. So employee is gone, project time ID is gone, and we have the dropdown here. And we are logged in as, I think, Max, but yeah, we are logged in at Max, but we can log in as Alice, for example. track project time, pick the one project that we have in the system at the moment, and just track some time here to demonstrate that it is definitely working. Yay!
There you go.
Here we have it. Okay, and at the moment, as I said, Cody Play is super new. It's in beta phase, so there's some stuff that we definitely want to add. One is that you can look at the database, but of course, since it's running in the browser, you can look in the local storage and check everything there. So we have 3 entries in the local storage: the configuration of Cody Play, which is really what UI pages should be shown, what commands, command calendars, and so on. You can check that. And I wanted to show you that we definitely have a new project time tracked event in our event store with maybe it's a little bit small, but with the day and time and everything that I've entered just in the form. So Cody Play is event sourced. Cody Engine, if you check it out on GitHub and run it on your local machine, is also event sourced. The whole stuff is working on event sourcing. As I said, it matches perfectly fine with Eventstorming and with our event map, and yeah. So yeah, okay, that was a feature. Then let's just look at the reports, only to show you that everything is working. So I've prepared the reports. I just hand them over to Cody real quick. And then or maybe we just look at this one here.
Okay.
To not lose time. It's not so important. I mean,
we have plenty of time.
That's true, but I also want to show the scenario mapping stuff. So I need another 10-15 minutes. Let's see. But okay, yeah, I just run Cody here for the last feature, and then we can look at it real quick. So okay, so again, what's the idea of this prototyping thingy? You can sketch a model on Proofboard within the event map, and then you can play around with it in this Cody Play sandbox. And it's often useful to try different variants of the model. So maybe 2 or 3 different variants. And you can do this here really, really quick. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing it now with explanation and so on in 20 minutes or so for one feature. So the idea is that you can do this prototyping within the collaboration session. So we want to get it up to this point, yeah, that it is so easy that the team can design and prototype nearly at the same time. And then the idea is that you can have those different snapshots. They are like Git commits, I would say, yeah, and that you can jump between different features. Or even if you have a really complex system that you don't need to have the entire system running in Cody Play, but only a subset for that you need to try out a new feature, for example. Yeah. So this is really different from software development. This is really prototyping here, and that's the idea, that we can support this, yeah, as best as we can. Also with the mechanism to switch the personas instead of logging out and logging in with different test users and so on. So that is much faster. We also want to add a possibility to simulate emails or file uploads and file processing, or connecting to third-party systems via APIs. So this is all in the pipeline. But the most basic thing, design functionality of the system and try it out in Cody Play, as you can see, is already working. So let's jump back to our application here. And the reports should now be available. So if I sign in as a project manager, then I can go to the project and I see the time report here. Maybe just to make it clear or prove that it works, track another time with Bob and use another date. By the way, validation also works. So this is not going. Oh, I said too much. The validation rule is not in place. Okay, this should not happen, but I think I've deleted the validation rule for this. Okay, yeah, I know, because it's here. I've said the end time is only string format time, and I skipped the validation, so there is the option to also say, okay, this should not be smaller than the start time, but I don't have it in my mind how to type it at the moment. So okay, no validation at the moment, but you can definitely do it. It works in. No, wait. I can show you, because Cody Play is also available in the free client. Yeah, so proofbot is also running as a browser-only version that you can just open by typing free.proof-board.com. No login, nothing, no registration. Yeah, you can just open it and try it out. And here we have some example boards, and yeah, override the existing board, doesn't matter. And here I think I have the rule in place exactly. Let me just copy this. So you can also try out the demo that I show you today yourself by going into the free client and running Cody Play on this demo board here. Here's the same application, completely prepared. You can just run it, and that's it. So let me just replace this here. All right. So yeah, this is a little bit more complex because we have to look at another property at the start time and then use some settings from JSON schema to make the validation happen. And if I run Cody again, then I should now also get an error when doing this. Let's see. So 1 hour too early. Yep. Okay, the validation method is not nice at the moment, but at least the validation is working. Okay. Yeah, and we wanted to look at the time report, so let's have a look there. Max checks the project time report, and we see both entries from Bob and Alice. Perfect. And if we log in as Jane, the HR person, Jane has access to the employees and then can check the time tracked by Alice or check the time tracked by Bob. So yeah, you can do a lot with it already. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that the great thing is this innovation of trying to meld Eventstorming design to software, taking the software design layer of Eventstorming and making it real in a prototype. That's pretty intriguing, and I think, if the tool is working and you're not having to code too much in a meeting with design expert or domain experts, it could go really well. but once you start tinkering, you're going to lose them, right? So you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
need to
yeah,
be
yeah,
prepared for that. But if you're not with them, you're taking those. Let's say you do the event storm on the
yeah,
board, and you get it to where they like it, then you can take
yeah.
it back to your
Exactly,
desk. And is
exactly.
that kind of how you use it?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, as I said, this one is really new. So the idea is to use it like that. And we are already working on some projects, but with users who are really very, very close to us. So, but yeah, that's the whole idea to do it in this way. And that's also the reason why the more technical aspects are hidden in the metadata sidebar. Yeah. So that when you look at the event map together with the domain experts, the technical details like how the information is queried or what specific schema a command has and so on, this is not that this is hidden from the domain experts.
Yeah.
Only if they want to see it, then you can tell them, yeah, you can open the metadata sidebar and there you see the properties and so on. Yeah, but that's exactly the idea. Don't confuse the people who don't need to know the technical details, but still be able to work with them
Right.
on the event map, yeah,
Yeah.
on the visual layer. And as you said, then after the meeting, you can get together as a team and then work on the technical aspects.
Yep.
And I think within the team, it's a great learning tool also for non-developers to understand a little bit better what happens with information, or why do we need events and so on. Yeah. So, or if you are new to event sourcing, it's also super nice to use it. I can really imagine Proofboard being a learning tool for people who want to learn event sourcing, because you start from Eventstorming, you get the design right, and you get a direct feeling of how the design translates into real software. Yeah.
Yep.
So many possibilities, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you find that people get lost in the technical details? They how often do you run into the situation where they're ready to start programming? Does this tool enable that premature software design side, like, or how do you manage that? How do you manage the rush to build something?
Mm, oh, that's a really good question. I mean, yeah, it really depends on the team and what kind of workflow they use. For example, we introduced Proofboard and event sourcing and Eventstorming to a prop tech company, and they were using Scrum. And the problem was that the product owners and the UX designers did all the upfront work. So if we jump back to our hill chart, only the product owners and the UX designers worked on climbing the hill. And then the normal thing that happens, yeah, they wrote everything into the backlog and wrote some stories and so on. And then the developers should estimate those stories and all the stuff, but the developers started on top of the hill and they missed the climbing. And then we started to introduce Eventstorming, but especially the UX designers were not so happy about Eventstorming because their work was influenced by Eventstorming. Yeah, but long story short, we had to make it work within the Scrum process. So what we did was to introduce Eventstorming sessions that were not part of the current sprint, or how should I say it? So the Eventstorming sessions were part of the current sprint, but meant to prepare the next sprint. Yeah.
Okay.
So so that was the idea. Give room for the design part and include the people who actually do the work into the design part, and don't exclude them because they are busy on working on the current sprint. So there need to be time for climbing the hill. Yeah. Otherwise, you are in the feature factory, and you are not really understanding the problem. You don't really know what to do and how the model should look like to support the business and the users best. Yeah. And
Right.
I think that's the idea. Try whatever process you are using. I'm not really a fan of Scrum, but that's a different story. But whatever process you are using, try to find the time to climb the hill. Do the model exploration whirlpool before you really want to implement this. This is a game changer. Yeah.
It's
Your quality will increase by an order of magnitude. Yeah.
primarily because the developers now know the intent of the domain.
Exactly.
They understand the rationale behind the decisions of the user stories they're looking at. And they don't have to stop and ask a question every few minutes as to why things were written the way they were. Yeah. So I really enjoyed the process of watching you take an event storm and turning that into code generated application that's working in the browser. As you move forward, what are the kinds of features? You've mentioned that there are certain types of output features that you're going to be putting into it. What are some other things that you're looking toward in the future?
Yeah, the one thing that I also want to show you is that we are working on scenario mapping.
Okay.
So as I said, this is work in progress by a dedicated team. And I've really set up the team in a way that they should come up with their own solutions. So I only told them the story of what would be a great addition to Proofboard. So the idea is that you take events, commands, information from your event model, and that you give the designers an easy way to sketch scenarios with this stickies.
Okay.
Yeah, in a given when then format. So and here's the first prototype. It's one scenario assigned developer to project. Yeah, and at the moment you have to specify all the information of the scenario. So given we have a project set up with that project ID and assigned to that client, and with this project manager being the one responsible for the project, then when the assign developer to project command is sent to the backend with a project ID and that developer ID, then we want to see a developer assigned to project. Yeah.
Okay.
So problem here of the proof of concept is that you have to mess around with the UUIDs and so on. So the idea later is to automate this and do it in the background. Yeah, so everything that is not given as an information on the sticky should be filled by a faker library. Yeah. So and every information that is given on the sticky should be taken into account for the scenario test case running in the system. The next thing is that the proof of concept doesn't work in Kodi Play at the moment. So you have to run the Kodi engine on your local machine. And meanwhile, I've started the Kodi engine. It has the same time tracking application generated, and I've started the Kodi server and so on, so that I can connect to the Kodi server. Wrong browser. And let me quickly open the Kodi console. And Come on. I have to disconnect from Kodi Play. Okay. And connect to my local Kodi server now. So, and then I can run this scenario against my local Kodi. Yeah, looks good, looks good. Okay, and if I go into my IDE, then I see and I can check the generated file. So I now have a new scenario test case in my Node.js application that is then executed by Cucumber.js. So I really see the scenario here: assign developer to project, given project was set up, and so on. And then I also have the automated test that runs in the background based on given when then, and that one will execute the command and so on. And if I run it, I can stop the Kodi server and just run the tests, test scenarios. Then the test gets executed. Takes a moment due to the screen sharing and my system running on high energy here. But yeah, I see that the scenario was successfully executed, and just to prove that it really works, I'm switching into the command handler of assign developer to project and quickly introduce a bug so that my test gets red. Wrong browser, wait. Let me just assign the project manager as a developer. So this could be a real bug based on some wrong mapping. Like this. And if I run the test again, it should become red. Come on. Yeah, okay, now it's red. So my scenario test that was sketched on Proofboard and generated by Kodi into the application can now be used for automated testing, continuous delivery pipelines, and so on. So I think that is a really interesting addition once it's ready to be used, because you can sketch those scenarios together with the domain experts. Yeah. Yep. Or I mean, we have customers working more as software agencies, so they work for clients and they develop projects for those clients, and the project managers will love this feature because they can sit together with the client and define the acceptance criteria as scenarios on Proofboard, and then the developers can use those scenarios and run it against the system and include it as automated testing. And yeah, I think that's a really powerful addition. Other than that, as I said, for Kodi Play, we try to add email simulation, file processing, and stuff like that. And yeah, and Kodi Engine is going to become a low-code system, an open source low-code system. So that is a fact. This will happen in 2024, next year. We will partner with BitExpert even more on this one, because BitExpert is also they develop projects for clients, but they also use low code, so they have different revenue streams, I would say, and they use different low code systems. And one problem always is the vendor login. Yeah, yeah, that's the reason why we will turn Kodi engine into an open source low code system. Yeah.
All right.
With high customization options.
Okay. Well, we're taking a look into the chat board right now. We don't have any questions coming in. Gunnar says there's no questions. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Alexander, and thank you, John.
That's great.
Proofboard Kodi is wonderful, he says.
Oh, nice.
So that's some positive feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see in my mind's eye how as this product becomes more widely used and feedback comes to you, how people would like to see it. I see it has a lot of potential for workflow, especially in that pre-development design phase where you're just trying to get a good prototype. And, you know, there's nothing like the real AI, actual intelligence. And when you're putting that down into those designs and you're getting the domain knowledge from the experts who know how the business has worked for years and how they want it to work for years to come, and they're imagining their business in a way that the developers kind of need to know those nuances to satisfy the user expected goals. And by taking Proofboard or, you know, tools that are like this and making them help that knowledge flow go from the mind of the domain expert all the way to the code, and the more we streamline that process without losing design capability, the better off we are.
Exactly.
And I think people who watch this video for years to come, they'll look back at it. They'll look at what Proofboard is in a few years, and they'll go back and they can see this, and they can see the maturation process. And I think it's just a really good step forward towards that. And for those who are watching, they want to learn more. Where do they go to get connected with you and
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not present on all social media platforms. I'm really against social. Yeah, but LinkedIn is the one platform where you can reach out to me. LinkedIn and GitHub. So if you Google Proofboard GitHub, then you get to our organization on GitHub, and here you also find the wiki, the Kodi engine that you can install on your local machine, and so on. Also the free version of Proofboard. Of course, we have a website, and as I said, you can just open freeproofboard.com and play around with it. Yeah, so it's no registration, nothing. The only limitation is that it completely runs in your browser. Everything is stored in your local storage, so you cannot try out the collaboration stuff with your teammates. That's not going to work in the free version. But Kodi Play, Kodi Engine, this is open source, so you can check it out, and it will work together with the free client. So you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, but if you like it, then please get in touch and think about the subscription. At the moment, you cannot register on Proofboard. You have to contact me. So we are still a little bit in stealth mode. I think this will change next year, but the last 4 years, it was more important for me to know who is using Proofboard and how. Right. And that I can give the best support, because we don't have venture capital or something. Yeah, this is just done by us. Yep. With our time and our money. And it's important for me to have a direct connection to the customers, so that I can support them and get the direct feedback and make it a great product. And yeah, now I think it's time to open the doors for everybody. And I think this will happen at the beginning of the next year, and then you can just register and make a subscription to also use the collaboration part. And as I said, check out the free client. There's also a wiki when you are on the board, not in Cody Play. When you're on the board, for example, you can go to the FAQs, then you get to the wiki, and here you also find Eventstorming basics. You find information how to design the event map, how to work with Cody, with the Cody engine, and so on. So, of course, work in progress. So, we have to work a lot on the documentation, especially the Cody engine and the Cody Play part. But yeah, okay. We try our best to make it as good as possible.
I do have a question, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear you state it.
Okay.
What level of training or education do people need to really be able to use Proofboard and Cody Play, especially the Proofboard side, the mapping, the domain mapping? Do you, I mean, we talked a little bit that people who are new, but do they still need to hit a workshop or two on Eventstorming and domain-driven design to really get the most out of it, to make it intuitive for them?
That's a tricky question. Because, as I said, I learned programming myself, and I learned it by looking at the work of other people. Yeah, I just looked at frameworks and how they are developed and so on. So I would say, okay, you can just open the free client and start to play around. We've prepared demo boards like this time tracking app where you see where you can look at the technical part and how the schema is defined and so on. So that's a good starting point. But I think not everybody can do it like this in an easy way. So if you want to learn all this, I think it's best to start really with Eventstorming. First with big picture Eventstorming to get an idea how to design events and so on. Then go to the process level. Play around with this. There's also a lot of information available on the internet for event modeling, for Eventstorming. So just get an idea how all this works. And then come to the event map design. I think when you understand the workings of Eventstorming and the event modeling, then the event map isn't that hard.
Okay.
Then you can follow the wiki, for example, which goes through the steps so that you get those features designed. And yeah, as I said, the Cody Play part will then also be available in the wiki. And I also try to record explanation videos so that you can get an idea without a workshop. But the fastest way, of course, is to book a workshop. Yeah. Then you're up and running in no time.
Yeah, just think in a real world scenario, if you really want to know how to use these tools, whether it's, obviously with Miro, you're going to need to know how, if you're using Lucid, Miro, any other, charting tool that doesn't have the guardrails for you already there, you're going to need to know. But I think it's still helpful to go, and attend an online workshop and learn kind of the essence of how you explore the domain through these principles and concepts, and then use the tool to make you go faster. And so yeah, I love that. And then there are other ways like domain storytelling and so forth. Do you envision this tool branching out and basically having whatever flavor of mapping you like that's pretty popular, domain storytelling, domain modeling, Eventstorming, the interface of those also have rules and could eventually, I could see, if it's not Proofboard, it could be another company does something similar. But I was just wondering, are you thinking of other mapping paradigms that can interface with Cody Play?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I mean, domain storytelling maybe a little bit by using icons instead of the stickies.
Okay.
But the problem is you need the semantics. You need to know what is the event and what is the command and so on. And event storming is just perfect for this. Yeah. So
Okay.
And it is not trivial to translate the event map into working code. Yeah,
That's
I mean, generating some boilerplate, easy, relatively easy. But working code, like you saw in Cody Play and so on, that's going to be tough. The guys that are working on the scenario mapping, I mean, they also had to figure out, okay, I just have the client project setup event here, right? But I need to know which aggregate is responsible for recording this event. Yeah. So what they have to do is they have to look for the original event in the event map. So we are here in the scenario, and we have the same event here in the event map, and they have to find this event on the proof board and then look up the aggregate and look into the metadata to find out, okay, what are the business rules and so on, which information is connected with that aggregate. So what is the state of the aggregate? How does the state look like, and so on. Yeah. So that's not so easy to do. If you are into it, then it becomes easier, definitely. So I can develop anything related to the event map, but you have to learn how to do it. And when we would add other methods like domain storytelling and so on, then you have to redo all this lookup logic. Yeah, you have to see how can I programmatically understand what is designed, and that's going to be hard. Maybe AI can help with that, but AI is not deterministic, and that's something I don't want to use. Yeah, when I let Cody translate the event map into some working code, then I want to guarantee that the code always looks the same, and that it is validated by me and my team, so that you can, if you want, you can deploy it to production, and it works like expected if the design is correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we cannot guarantee this by using AI to translate the model into software. So that's not going to work. What I can imagine is to integrate some more AI logic into the design part. I mean, we have Cody here to suggest the stickies and the flow. But I can imagine to have some more advanced AI integration to suggest the schema or
naming,
naming and so on. Yeah, I mean that happens often. Yeah, like the first use case here, hire employee. And normally, when you start with Eventstorming, you would just call the command add user or create user. Yeah. And it's pretty hard to come up with terms that are more descriptive and really describe what is going on. And here the idea is, for example, when we are a software agency and we have developers working on projects, we have to hire them. That's the moment when they enter our company. So why not call it hire employee instead of add user? Yeah.
Right.
And I can imagine to let ChatGPT or whatever suggest some more meaningful names if the context of the company is known by ChatGPT, for example, so that they can really suggest some meaningful stuff from the domain that is in play. Yeah.
Yep.
But that's future.
Right.
Let's see. At the moment, we are happy with Cody.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I think that wraps it up. I don't have any other questions coming in. I really appreciate you, Alexander, taking the time. I know it's late over there in Germany, and you're blessing us with some of your time here in the United States. And I just wanted to recap. Proofboard is an opportunity. It's a way to take Eventstorming if you're already familiar with it. If you're not, you might want to become familiar with it, and put it into a system that was designed to keep you on the guardrails of Eventstorming, and then be able to see the output of that in code. And even if you're only using that as a prototype just to kind of get an idea of what the model would look like, that's helpful, especially if you need to do 3 or 4 designs to finally come up with something that's intelligible. The real struggle for most developers is to design more than one design because they're on a time crunch, and if they see something that kind of works, they want to just roll with it. But taking taking a step back, doing the whirlpool that's like displayed right here, and being part of the process of climbing the hill and learning and understanding the domain, that is what domain-driven design is all about. That's why we built the US site. That's why Europe is doing what they're doing. They want the developers to join the domain experts in collaborative modeling and make software that makes sense towards advancing that organization's cause, whatever that mission is. So I want to thank you again, Alexander. This is pretty awesome. You put a lot of work into this. I mean, for years you've been working on this, but in the last, couple months since we talked about this, you've put the time and energy into helping us understand how Proofboard works. And for those of you who are watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching it recorded, if you feel the need to explore it, contact Alexander. Maybe you have questions, maybe you have suggestions, input. I'm sure they would love to hear from you. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll wrap that up, and then we'll go back to real quick. I just wanted to show the website, DDDUnitedStates.com. Has a ton of resources there, and meetups. You could start a meetup. If you know of a meetup we don't know about, let us know. And then, of course, Explore DDD is happening in Denver in March, and we have quite a number of speakers already identified. Not we, but Paul and his team have done that, and they've put a pretty considerable number of people on the schedule. So it looks to be pretty packed, and with a lot of very deep thinkers in the domain-driven design space. So if you haven't already registered, I highly recommend it. And if you go, I will see you there. And with that, I think that's it. Thanks, Alexander. I appreciate your time. And
thank you for having me.
We'll talk again soon. Take care, everybody. Appreciate your time watching. And we're out. Have a good one.
Bye.